Just start rambling. So that's kind of the goal and what I'm aiming for. So in 3, 2, 1. How's it going, y'all? My name is Jordan. Welcome to Lunch Break. This is going to be, I guess, episode 1 or whatever I want to call it on something that I am going to be trying out for just the foreseeable future. So the idea behind it, honestly, is it's more so like for me, nothing else about it really matters too much. And it's because I work in a workplace where I am the only guy, the only person to talk to. And, not saying girls can't be sports fans. We just happen to not have anyone here that works for it. So just gives me kind of a place to talk about my thoughts, talk about sports, talk about what I see going on for the week, what happened on Thursday Night Football, because my goal is to do it every Friday on my lunch break. So that's why it's called Lunch Break. So that is the vision there. So episode 1, we are going to start by talking about last night's game. Game 1 against the Cowboys versus the Eagles. So those are always great games, So a lot of things I saw people talking about, and I know last season was probably a big reason why they said that. A lot of people were saying that it's far more likely for the Eagles to blow out the Cowboys. And on a week-to-week basis, or a season-to-season basis, I should say, I think that was extremely unrealistic. The whole time I was sitting there thinking the Eagles and the Cowboys always play close. If the Cowboys win, the Eagles barely lost. If the Eagles win, the Cowboys barely lost. Last season, Dak Prescott was hurt. So many people disrespect Dak, which we're going to get to. Trust me, that is part of what I want to talk about. We're going to get to that. So many people disrespect Dak and discredit what he does for the team. And what ends up happening is they look at last season where Cooper Rush was the quarterback. Come on now. Be serious. Just because Mike McCarthy could win with him does not mean that he's a good quarterback. He's a backup for a reason. It's impressive what Mike McCarthy did, but to discredit the Cowboys and say, well, the Eagles blew them out last season. For one, the Eagles lost some pieces. The Eagles are not who they were last season. They're still going to be a very good team, still going to be a playoff team, still a Super Bowl contender. That is no question, no doubt. But to sit here and say, oh, the Cowboys are going to get blown out, I thought was irresponsible. I think there was some doubt put on Brian Schottenheimer, which cannot blame you for that either. Understood. Never been a head coach. Wasn't really looked at as an elite offensive coordinator even. Wasn't even in conversations. People weren't considering that. People thought it was more likely the Cowboys hire a head coach and Brian Schottenheimer is out of a job because they want to bring their own OC, their own DC, or whatever. But instead, you end up in a boat where he becomes the head coach. And so I understand the doubt of it, but I think the biggest thing that last night showed, from my perspective, it showed 2 parts. 1, Jalen Hurts is better than he gets credit for. And 2, Dak Prescott also is better than what he gets credit for. If you look at around just social media, if you look around ESPN, Fox Sports, The Athletic, wherever you look, Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott, to me, are underrated. And where they're underrated at is so many people look at the talent. What does the arm talent look like? Do they have a cannon of an arm? Do they have these like freak athletic plays that make you think, oh, this guy's just better than everyone else? First of all, Jalen Hurts last night showed he is that level of athlete. All of those touchdowns he got where he went on the run, where he saw nothing open and just took off and then got 5 yards here, 6 yards here, 7 yards here. He always got exactly what his team needed. He always got the exact yards needed and made the right decision. He was sacked 1 time. He threw 1 pass that I can think of off the top of my head watching last night after that rain delay where it was a little questionable, but that was it. When he threw the ball, he threw it where it needed to be. It was a lot of check down plays. It was a lot of short yardage passes, and a lot of people hate on that. There are people that say, oh, all he did was check the ball down. He threw it to Saquon. He threw it to his tight end. He threw it short. Like, that's all he did. He was just throwing short. You have to take what the defense gives you. If you force the ball all the time, that's how you end up like, the Colts quarterback. slipping my brain right now. Anthony Richardson. There we go. That's how you end up like Anthony Richardson. Everything has to be just a big play. That's how you end up like the Cowboys' backup quarterback. That's how you end up like him. He's got a cannon of an arm, but everything has to be a money play. And that's not how quarterbacking works. You take what the defense gives you. And that's what Jalen Hurts did last night. Every opportunity that was there, Jalen threw the ball where it needed to be. He sat in the pocket. When things got muddy, he moved around in the pocket. He got outside of the pocket when he saw the defensive line crash in. If he saw that defensive end crash in, tackle back up, he was backing up and going around because he knew at that point they'd have to break. He didn't have Micah Parsons to worry about. We'll talk about that too, but he didn't have a Micah Parsons to worry about. So he knew the Cowboys, did not have the break line speed at defensive end like Micah Parsons would be. So he knew he was safe to run around to the outside to get yards. If he saw things kind of collapsing like a horseshoe almost, he knew to play up, play in the openings. And if he saw the middle of the field was empty, linebackers didn't match coverage and went this way, went that way, went back, he was gone. He said, this is an easy 5 yards. This is free. Why not take it? If it takes me using my legs this whole time and just taking the free 5 yards, this 5 yards is guaranteed. A throw is not. Even to A.J. Brown, a throw is not guaranteed. I think this game showed that A.J. Brown can be limited. We can talk about that too, because maybe the Cowboys cornerbacks were disrespected by somebody. Not saying who, but it might have been someone traded to the Packers that suddenly was saying he's never played with all pro corners. He's never played with these elite guys. So in return, they're going to love him because their ball's going to come out much quicker because he's on the line, and then they're going to look better. Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with how good they are, obviously. Now I will say on one of the plays, I think it was Trayvon Diggs, might have been Bland, but I think it was Diggs got burned by the third wide receiver on the Eagles. Slipping on his name right now because he's literally, when they were announcing each of the players, he was like one of the lowest rated PFF wide receivers as their wide receiver 3. And he did kind of cook him because he played on the inside and he went out. That's a problem. But for the most part, the coverage was good. And so Jalen Hurts took what he needed. So I think that's the first thing that I took is Jalen Hurts is a little underrated. I think I've seen some people say Matthew Stafford's better than him. I disagree. Matthew Stafford as a whole, maybe if you could suddenly put him in a chamber and they'd both be in their mid-20s, sure, give me Matthew Stafford. But broke back Matthew Stafford, I don't know about that. I've seen people say Justin Herbert is better. You got to win a playoff game at some point. You got to do something with that talent at some point before I can say you are arguably better. Now, I don't think he competes with the top 4. The top 4 is a given. That's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. Those are the 4, and those will be the 4 until they're taken out. Sorry, they're doing lawn care out there. Before they're taken out, those are the top 4. But to say he's not in the 5 to 6 range, I can't think of a 5th or 6th quarterback I would take over Jalen Hurts right now. If that's how he's playing, if he's being a leader like that, if he's making decisions like that, I can't think of someone I would take over him. Now, on the other side, because I think Jalen's a little disrespected, the disrespect that's been witnessed for Dak Prescott, that is the part that stuck out to me the most about last night's game. If you just were a sheet watcher, if you didn't have a chance to watch the game, maybe you don't have cable, maybe the rain delay made it where you just were like, I'm going to bed, I'm not staying up for this. If you just look at the stat sheet, you may look at it and say, he didn't throw over 200 yards. He had a pretty subpar completion percentage, not a single touchdown. Didn't throw an interception, but not a single touchdown. Not a lot of yards on the ground. How could you say that he played well? Like, what about this? What about this shows that he played well? But if you watch the game, how many passes Dak threw that it was right where it needed to be, that the wide receivers just couldn't carry it or drag it down, is astronomical. Dak threw the ball exactly where it needed to be on that play that CD dropped. And CD doesn't drop passes, so that's an anomaly. I don't think that we're gonna have to worry about another drop game like this. I think the rain plus the having to warm up and then stop playing and then warm up again, I think that messed with his catching, which happens. They're athletes, they're humans though. He threw it right where it needed to be. The other drop on 4th down that basically cost the Cowboys the game, Yes, that was a little overthrown. I will say that. It was an overthrown pass. If you look at it, clearly the ball went and CD had to extend to catch it. But CD Lamb's trying to say that he's the best wide receiver in the game. And I would say he's top 3. I don't think he's number 1. For me, I'd put Justin Jefferson. I'd put him as number 1. Some people may instead put Bengals wide receiver, blanking on his name, but it will come to me eventually, Jamar Chase. Some people put Jamar Chase number 1. That's okay. I'd say they're 1 and 2 clearly, though. That's a given. CD is, to me, the obvious number 3. And last night, once again, showed that. When CD was getting separation, CD was catching the ball, he played phenomenal all game. Just at the end, he didn't do what he needed to. Just at the end, he didn't. But watching the passes where Dak right up the seam in the middle, right where it needed to be, he had a couple of passes that got away from him. There was one pass up the seam, tight end. I don't know which tight end it was. It might have been Ferguson, might have been Shoemaker. I don't know which tight end was out there, but probably Ferguson because he's their main tight end. Beat the linebacker, was over the top of him. Dak just had to float it a little bit more and it would have been a touchdown. Instead, it was slightly short, hit the linebacker in the back of the head. Those throws, there were certain throws I saw that I said, that got away from him. That just wasn't quite where it needed to be, But there were so many throws, the seam up the middle in the end zone, that ended up being a pass interference that was kind of not pass interference, unnecessary roughness, kind of borderline. Don't know if I would have made that roughing or unnecessary roughness call, but it was made. What are you going to do about it? All you can do is play the game ahead of you. But that ball was thrown only where the tight end could have caught it, and you just didn't drag it down. Ferguson had another shot at it, seam right down the middle where Ferguson would catch it. It was in his hands. He dropped it as well. Dak had so many players dropping passes, but he made the throws exactly the way they needed to be. And then he also showed that he may not be as fast as he used to be. Some of the times when I watched him run, the couple of runs he had that were actual runs, I will say he definitely does not have the wheels he had when he was in his 20s taking over for Tony Romo. The mobility he had then versus now, not the same. But it's one of those quarterbacks that has mobility enough that can get the job done. It's not like Big Ben was. Obviously not, because Big Ben was in his mid-30s whenever he retired. It's not like how Aaron Rodgers is at 42. People are talking about Dak like he's some 80-year-old quarterback. He's 32 years old, which in today's day and age for quarterback, not that old. He's had major injuries, so of course his play style is going to change. But there was that play, if you watch the game, you know exactly the one I'm about to describe, where it was a sack. Dak was going to be dead to the ground, and he was able to get out of the sack, evade it, get off the tackler, where the tackler is basically on his back. Got him off, ran to the side, and if I remember correctly, he either threw a dot or ran for a couple yards. It might have been he ran for a couple yards. That part is kind of fuzzy right now just from talking through it off of memory. But just watching him evade that sack and get out of that showed enough that he is still plenty mobile. So he is plenty mobile. His accuracy is just as great as it's been. And his pre-snap, that's the part that's dangerous. He's able to get people into plays they need to be. He's able to get things moved around as needed. He's able to look at the defense, diagnose what needs to be done, and dice it up. And that's, I think, the big separator for those two quarterbacks, Jalen and Dak, that not a lot of people talk about, is they are major leaders. That's the part. People talk about how Jalen's one of the best leaders, Dak's one of the best leaders, and they want their quarterback to be a leader, but then they don't add that into the equation, where suddenly Dak is being talked about like he's the 15th best quarterback, 16th best quarterback in the league. You're telling me that Caleb Williams right now is a better quarterback than Dak? You're wrong. Now, if you're projecting, if you're going off of what they'll be 5 years down the road, sure. Dak will be, 37 years old, 38 years old? And Caleb Williams will be in his prime. But to put him at top 10, just based on talent alone, is insane. I think Dak Prescott is clearly a top 10 quarterback. Every time he's healthy, he's in the top 10. And then if he gets injured, he's suddenly kicked out of it like he's no good. People are talking about how they need to go ahead and draft another quarterback. I don't see why. Now, if you see a quarterback that you think can develop behind Dak for a couple of years, or you think it's going to be another Dak Tony Romo situation where you draft the quarterback to back up. Now, Dak was a fourth-round pick, fourth round pick, I'm pretty certain. But you draft the quarterback, he's sitting on the bench, and Dak's playing. And if Dak gets injured, you have the quarterback step in, and then he takes over from there, and it's just a keys to the castle handoff. That's your prerogative, and I could see it being beneficial. Green Bay does it all the time. But I could also see them being able to, if they decide they don't want to pay Pickens, if Pickens and Dak can't figure things out, draft a second wide receiver in the first round and replace Pickens with an actual number 2 to be next to CD. Draft an edge rusher. You traded one of the best edge rushers in the league. Go ahead and draft his replacement. Get him in there, because clearly the rush that the Cowboys have, not the solution. I think Eberflus can change some things around, but that's neither here nor there. That's beside the point. Go ahead and draft an edge rusher. Go ahead and, if you see an elite tackle, you have left tackle. I truly believe Tyler Guyton is the answer. He showed so much as the left tackle in this game. Think you could probably strengthen it up with Steele. I don't know if he's the right tackle for the future. So go ahead and draft a right tackle. You have your tackles, you have your guard. Center BB, we'll see, but we've already seen the middle interior, so I guess that does include BB was strong, left tackle was strong, right tackle, that's the one that was kind of not doing as well. So draft another elite tackle, maybe find another Tyler. You have your four Tyler linemen, and then Cooper Beebe in the middle. Draft the players that will help you win. Not necessarily a quarterback's just going to sit there. Now, if that's the direction you want to go, once again, you have 4 draft picks, first-round draft picks in the next 2 years. Your decision to make. But I think the disrespect that Dak has been given since he got injured and in the offseason, where people have had him ranked 15, 16, 17, 14, everything but in the top 10 is insane. And some of the players put over him, I think, is the part where it's blatant disrespect. If you look at it and you have a Michael Penix that hasn't proved anything, why is he over him? If you look at it and Sam Darnold had one good season and suddenly you have him ranked above Dak Prescott, no way. Geno Smith, no offense to Geno Smith, nobody was knocking at his door to make him the highest paid quarterback. Now, you may not think Dak deserves to be the highest paid player in the NFL. That's fair. From his skill set, he probably shouldn't be the highest paid, but he should be higher paid than Geno Smith, than Sam Darnold, than all these other quarterbacks. Top 10 I think is obvious. And I think anyone that disagrees with that is just being blinded by the dislike of the Cowboys, or being blinded by what they hear online and on social media. So that was kind of long-winded, but that's kind of my thoughts on the quarterback situation. Past that, the game was fantastic. At the beginning, before the rain delay, offenses were clicking. You had touchdown. Cowboys came down, diced up the defense, was perfect, absolutely perfect offense. I thought everything about it was great. It showed the run game has better promise than people were leading on. I think that has to do with the offensive linemen more than the running backs, but still, you saw that there's promise with the run game for the Cowboys this season, and then you saw the passing game. Nobody's going to compete with that. CD, up until his drops, played phenomenally. He was the difference in that game. I think it's Quinton Mitchell is how you say it, the cornerback for the Eagles. He's their only decent coverage. Opposite side, if you throw away from him, it's not going to be, or no, wait. No, he's the one that got lit up, I think. Never mind. He's the one that got lit up. You just target him, go. The Eagles secondary was not having a good time that game. They really weren't. CD let him get away with a lot with those drops at the end. But seeing the pass game without George Pickens actually getting involved as much as you want him to, that tells you that the sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. If the defense can just be middle of the pack and not pull up Bengals of last season, the Cowboys are going to win more games than a lot of people think. Brian Schottenheimer showed that he actually might have promise as a head coach. I think that's a significant thing that people aren't talking about. Brian Schottenheimer coached his team, coached them up, and they seemed prepared. They seemed ready for the moment. I think that was significant. And if anything, now this might be a little bit more my personal bias of not liking him too much. He He's a Super Bowl winning head coach. So it's hard for me to say this, and this is probably a hot take and probably an unsensible take. I get it. It's just what's going on in my head right now. I just want to say it out loud. Watching the way the Cowboys were prepared, watching the way the Cowboys played, they played disciplined, they played smart, they played exactly the way you'd want them to play for the most part, outside of some drops, some mistakes, not a lot of penalties, not a lot of mistakes, not a lot of errors. In comparison to the Eagles, Jalen Carter kicked out of the game before it even starts because he wants to spit at Dak. I know people are saying Dak spit first. You can watch it, have an opinion you want. Maybe Dak did. Dak being the kind of guy he is, I've never seen anything that suggests he would spit at somebody. Maybe looking at it, you want to say, no, he spit at somebody. How can you say he didn't? To me, it's more so he spit, and that's where it is. Jalen Carter took offense to that. He should have done that. He should have taken care of that on the football field. If he didn't spit on Dak, he'd be in the game. You know what he could have done? Sacked Dak and then been like, go ahead, you want to try to spit at me? How does that feel now? But instead, he decided to walk up to Dak, spit on him. What are we even doing? What are we even doing? Maybe seen as an overreaction. I think he would deserve to be suspended next game. I can see it now if that is what happens. I can see people saying, oh, it's because they're playing the Chiefs. It's because they're playing the Chiefs. I think he would deserve it. For one, because I don't think Jalen Carter is the best human in the world. He may be phenomenal at football. He's made some choices in his past. I won't always hold that against him, but he's still young enough and it was still fresh enough. Seeing something like this is going to make that be brought back. It's like when, I don't know how to say his first name, but Sue, the defensive tackle, was seen as a dirty player. Anytime people thought that he was better about it, he would do something else that would bring up like, I don't know if he's much better. This here makes me question once again, is he even much better? But a mistake like that, Jalen Carter, their best defensive player, gone, out of the game. Pass interferences, blatant pass interferences, grabbing the jerseys, yanking at them. It's not even like they were borderline. Every single pass interference that the Eagles got, it was clear and obvious pass interference. So pass interference calls. Wide receivers not getting open. You have A.J. Brown, you have Devontae Smith not getting open, not getting any coverage separation. Defensive players getting burned, run plays getting blown. You have all of these things happening. That alone, when I watched that, the Cowboys looked like the better coach team. Even if at the end of the day the Eagles won, the Cowboys were better coached. They were better prepared. They were better set for the situation. If the rain delay didn't happen, I think the Cowboys would have won that game. CD would have stayed in rhythm. He would have kept catching those passes. He would have kept bringing those things in. He wouldn't have made the errors that he made. Maybe the Eagles offense would have kept running. It would have been a high-scoring affair where the Eagles win. That's possible. But I think, my opinion, the Cowboys were better coached in that game at the end of the day. Jalen Hurts was the settling factor for the Eagles. I think coaching was the settling factor for the Cowboys. Dak kept things settled, of course, he's the leader. But seeing the way that they followed the game plan, seeing the way the defense stayed on assignment, and outside of the just Saquon being Saquon, he's going to make those run plays where he bounces off of people. You think he should be down and he stays up because his core strength and balance and all of that is unmatched. He's going to have those plays. But watching them be able to hold Saquon, stop him for a 1 or 2 yard gain, stop him behind the line of scrimmage, watching them actually stick with what they wanted to do and stick with their game plan defensively, I think was massive. Now, do you wish they made a change where they kept a spy in to try to stop Jalen Hurts, or they maybe didn't do as much match coverage and they did more zone where you keep people in the middle of the field? Sure. But I think that's still a coaching game plan. I think that's Eberflus needs to figure that out. But I think Brian Schottenheimer showed that he is a good coach, or has the potential to be a good coach. I'm not ready to say he truly is yet, but he has more potential than people give him credit for. But I do also think that he showed that he might be a better coach than Sirianni, which, once again, hot take. Hot take. It is one game. It is overreaction to one game. I know it is. So we're not gonna run with it. But watching that play out last night, I think the Eagles won because of Jalen Hurts. I think the Cowboys were in that game because of coaching. I think the game plan was masterful. I think the offensive play calling was great. Towards the end, do they get a little CD dependent? Sure. But I think that's Dak just as much as the play calling sheet. I think that's Dak saying, let me get it to my best guy. George Pickens is new. It's not that I don't trust him, but we don't have that rapport yet. I've been playing with CD for years. We have that consistency. I think it was a great coach game on the Cowboys end. Penalties were limited. The Cowboys haven't seen that in years. Penalties were limited. I think that was a big deal there. So those are my opinions on that game last night. From here, the last thing I'm going to do before we go is it's going to be just kind of a quick rapid fire, talking about the games coming up, saying who I may have picked for each matchup. So I have the sheet with all the games printed out. This same thing is on the cusp. If I do this consistently, I'll probably bring more notes, be more prepared. But for right now, it's more so just me firing off my thoughts and my opinions. So obviously tonight, Friday, September 5th, you have Kansas City at Los Angeles, even though it's not actually, because it is in Brazil. So this is a Brazil game. I think this is going to be a messy game. It's going to be a sloppy game. Hopefully they fix the field, because I know last year there were some complaints about the field quality, stuff like that. I would imagine the NFL would have stepped in and tried to make things better for their second time around, especially with the Chiefs being over there. That's their golden goose. That's their golden goose. That's their Taylor Swift team, right? So I would think that they would put more money into that. If they didn't, it's going to be sloppy. The Chargers want to run the ball. They want to play defensively. They want to be ball control. Once again, Justin Herbert, you hope, can make some big plays to win the game, but some people think he's a top 5, top 6 quarterback. I don't. I think he has the talent for it, but he hasn't produced. And the fact that his coach wants to take the ball away from him, not put it in his hands, I think tells a story. But yeah, I do have the Chiefs in this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. The Chiefs are still going to keep working on their offensive matchup. I think at this point, Travis Kelce, if he does perform, it's going to be similar to what we saw last season. He's going to save it in the tank for the playoffs. And during the regular season, he's probably not going to be he's not going to be the Travis Kelce we know. He's old. This is going to be his last season. If he plays next year, I'd be shocked. He just got engaged to a billionaire, world-famous singer. I think this is his last season. He's going to ride off into the sunset. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think you're going to have a lot of run game, a lot of Isaac Pacheco making a 3-4 yard run. Omarion Hampton is going to have a showing. We'll see if it's a great showing. So he has to run against Kansas City defensive line. But I do think Kansas City is going to win. If I were to make a guess, I'd say 17-14, last-minute field goal from Harrison Buckner that you keep in the corner and don't talk to too much. But he's there, and he's their kicker. From there, we have our Sunday games. Tampa Bay at the Falcons. Tampa Bay, I feel like that's an easy pick. Michael Penix, I think, has promise. He has potential, but Tampa Bay is more established. They have the better wide receiver core, even with their second wide receiver, my brain's saying Gordon. I think that's right. I can't remember 100%. Godwin, I don't remember. It starts with a G. I know that. My brain's just not thinking of it right now. Even with him being out, I think Emeka Egbuka takes over as that wide receiver 2 instantly. I don't know if they'll have instant connections, but I think Emeka Egbuka is a great wide receiver. I think he's going to be a really good player. I would pick him as probably the best wide receiver in this draft class. I know you have some, like the Carolina Panthers drafted, blanking on his name too, Tedero McMillan. So I know you have those big stars that are there, but I really do think Emeka Egbuka would be my pick for the best wide receiver. But at a minimum, he's going to be a complementary to what Tampa Bay wants to do. So I have Tampa Bay. I think they're going to win pretty comfortably. It's a in-house matchup though, that's the thing, and it's in Atlanta. So I'd say they win by a touchdown, maybe 28-21 type situation. If it was closer, I wouldn't be surprised because it is a division matchup. But I'm going to say 28-21 Tampa. Next, you have Cincinnati at Cleveland. I think that the Cleveland Browns are a mess, as per usual. My whole life, they've been a mess. They had a short stint where you thought they had promise, and then they gave the worst quarterback, a terrible quarterback, the biggest contract and fully guaranteed. Not a great choice. So now their quarterback room's a mess. Their wide receiver room's a mess. Their defense has some good players here or there, but for the most part, it's a mess. Cincinnati's going to go to Cleveland, and they're going to win, I'd say, by 2 touchdowns. I don't think it's going to be especially close. I don't think Cleveland's going to be organized. I think they have a good coach. So at most, the coaching might try to keep things level, and you might have leadership from 45-year-old, 87-year-old quarterback that they got rocking, Joe Flacco. So maybe, but I don't think it's going to be close. Cincinnati's going to win by 2 touchdowns. I'm going to go 28-14. Wouldn't even be surprised if it was 28-10. If they can't even get offense going on Cleveland's side, I would not be shocked. Miami at Indianapolis. Who's going to watch this game? I don't know. Why would you? You want to watch Tua, I guess. Go for it. I'm going to go, it's in Indianapolis, but it's in the summer. I'm going to go Miami. It's still warm. Even in Indianapolis, it might be in the 60s, the 70s. We don't have to worry about the cold weather, so I'm going to go with Miami to win by 2 touchdowns. No, let's go by about a touchdown to field goal, 10-point win, maybe a 7-point win. I'm going to say for that one, it's going to be more so a 17 to 7 type thing. The Colts have, they had their choice of quarterback, and who'd they go with? Daniel Jones. So that's questionable. Now, they do have a really good running game in Indianapolis. That's no question there. So that could make it more interesting. But I do think Miami, especially early on, should perform well. All right, so that's 3 road teams in a row. I got to watch out for that. Las Vegas at New England. I'm going to go with New England, actually, on this one. It's in New England. I think coaching is going to make a difference. It's probably going to be a low-scoring affair. I don't think Ashton Genty first game against New England and their defensive drive that they always try to do, I don't know if that's really going to go the way they want it to. So I think Ashton Genty is going to have a rough first game. And then from there, what do you have? Geno Smith and who are their wide receivers? Amari Cooper was literally practicing with him and said, I got to retire. I can't do this. So after retiring, coming out of retirement, play for him and then retired again. So I do think New England's going to win this. It's going to be a really low-scoring game. This one should be. I'm going to go with 17-10 New England, maybe 17-14 field goal or a touchdown win. Arizona at New Orleans. Why is New Orleans even playing this season? Joking. But I don't think that's going to be pretty. It's at New Orleans. That's the thing that might make it a little bit closer than we expect. But Arizona, Kyler Murray is better than people give him credit. Top 15 quarterback, I'd say. I think if him and Marvin Harrison Jr. can get a connection, that will be good. The Arizona's run game is decent. So I'm going to say Arizona wins. That's another road team, but it's hard because all these not good teams are the ones that are playing, are at home right now. But yeah, I'm going to say Arizona's going to win. I'm going to put them as a touchdown favorite for that one. Let's go with 21-14. Let's say Alvin Kamara is the only reason the Saints score 2 touchdowns. But if they didn't score even 1 touchdown, I wouldn't be shocked. Packers at New York, or Packers, that's crazy. Pittsburgh at New York. We got the Aaron Rodgers game. Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields swap teams, and we'll see how that goes. Same thing. Unless you're a fan of these teams, or if you're a fan of the Aaron Rodgers storyline, why are you watching this game? This is definitely going to be a small box in the corner type game for me. And with that being said, I'm going to go with New York to win this one. I don't think that the Steelers are going to be very organized this game. I think their defense will be organized. Mike Tomlin will keep that organized. I think offensively, it's going to be a struggle. I don't think they're going to be able to run against New York. I don't think they're going to be able to pass against New York. Sauce Gardner is going to shut things down. They're going to have not Quentin on Mitchell. Their defensive tackle, whatever it is, he's going to shut down the run with the other defensive players, and their defensive scheme is going to be nasty with their new head coach. So I think all of those things is going to lead to a low-scoring game once again. Having a lot of those for my expectation, because New York in return, what are they going to do offensively? Who knows? Probably not a lot. So this is going to be field goal, punt, field goal, punt, where it's going to be like a 9-3, a 12 to 6 type game. but I'm going to take the Jets to win that one. Other New York, you have New York at Washington. I'm going to take Washington in this one. I think Jaden Daniels is going to have a wonderful second season. We'll see if he has that sophomore slump that people normally worry about, but I don't know if he's going to run into that. I think the fact that they kept their offensive coordinator, they kept a lot of the team together. They re-signed Terry McLaurin. There's a lot of positivity that I think is going Jaden Daniels' way. And I think New York is still just kind of a mess. You have Russell Wilson at quarterback. Jackson Dart showed some promise in the preseason, but they're not rushing him in. They want to almost treat him like a Josh Allen, where you give him time to learn. You don't push too many buttons right off the bat. You're trying to give him some time. Definitely not saying Jackson Dart will be Josh Allen. I don't think that at all. But I think that's the mindset they're going with. So Washington's going to win, let's say 24-14, 24-10. I don't think it's going to be very close. It might be close just because it's a division rival and the Giants' defense is going to be better than we expect, but we'll see. Carolina at Jacksonville. I'm going to take Jacksonville. Love Carolina. Love the story for Carolina. Really rooting for Bryce Young. I just don't know. He's so small. I'm 5'9", 5'10". He's my height. I could not be a quarterback. There's no world I could be a quarterback, and I know that. So I think in return, Jacksonville, they had an exciting offseason. They're going to have the excitement of getting to watch one of the first players to play offense and defense since the great Deion Sanders. So we're going to get to witness that. And I think Trevor Lawrence needs to figure some things out, of course. He has all the promise in the world, and it's almost getting to the point of you need to show me something, and we'll figure that out. So that's kind of my mindset there, but I think Jacksonville's going to win that one. I do think it's going to be kind of a sloppy game on both sides. I could just see it being a 17-14, 17-10 type thing. But Jacksonville could also surprise us and have a crazy offense. Duval could cook. You never know. Brian Cohen, people are very complimentary, so we'll see. Next, you have Tennessee at Denver. I'm going to take Denver, so now we're on the home run. First of all, playing in Denver already is a disadvantage. That high altitude is difficult to play in. But past that, Sean Payton, great coach, good defense, good offense. I'm not as big of a Bo Nix believer as some people are, but I mean, he's at least a serviceable quarterback. I'm not going to disrespect him and say he's bad. He clearly showed he's good. I think you're limited with Bo Nix. I think it takes a fantastic coaching game plan every single week to be good with Bo Nix. But I think Denver beats Tennessee. Cam Ward's first start in the NFL on the road in Denver is a big ask. So I'm going to go 17-10, 17-14, maybe a 3-point swing one way or the other. But I'm going to take Denver to win that one. San Francisco at Seattle. This one's interesting. It's a division game. San Francisco at Seattle. Seattle just got Sam Darnold instead of Geno Smith. You switched out a AA battery for a AA battery. One of the same thing. Obviously, they're different players, but it's kind of the same caliber of quarterback. And Sam Darnold only did it for one season, and everywhere else he was not good. I'm worried about him turning into a pumpkin and us realizing that the Vikings offense is just that good. Almost like how San Francisco, their offense was so good you could plug and play anyone and they would perform well. A la Brock Purdy, a la, you know his name. It's slipping my brain right now, like every other name has been. But their quarterback before Brock Purdy. So you see those things and it makes you wonder. I'm personally leaning more towards what a Sam Darnold showed me over his career, and the fact that he went on an interview and said Brock Purdy is the one that made him realize he should handle things differently. I don't think that's the quarterback I'd want to be learning from, especially when I'm supposed to be the veteran in the room. So I am going to take Seattle. I'm going to take San Francisco, just because I do not think Seattle's offense is going to be that good. I think Seattle could have a good defense again like they had last year. I don't think Sam Darnold was the answer. I think that was a mistake. And I'm down to be proven wrong, but I'm going to go with what I've seen in all of the the years of Sam Darnold playing in the NFL instead of just one season having arguably the best wide receiver in the league and one of the top offensive coaches basically giving you plug and play plays, like press A here, press B here type situations. I'm not going to sit here and say that they have that in the bag. I don't think that was a good choice. I'm going to go with San Francisco. I don't believe in San Francisco very much, but I believe in them for this game specifically. And we're going to go with a solid 24-17 type situation. Next, you have Detroit at Green Bay. This will be interesting. How many snaps will Micah Parsons play? If Micah Parsons is able to go and he's able to wreck the game and he's able to make life difficult for Jared Goff, Packers win. If Micah, because he sat out all offseason, didn't keep himself prepared, didn't do all those things, if he can't go or he has limited snaps, I think from there the run game of Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is one of the top running backs in the league. You have Sonic and Knuckles over there, and they do also have pretty good wide receivers on top of it. They're just a good all-around team offensively, and with a defensive-minded head coach that's all about being physical, getting after it. I think at that point the Lions would win because I think when you trade away your best defensive tackle in Ryan Clark to, in return, get an edge rusher in Micah Parsons, you end up putting yourself in the situation the Cowboys were in last year, where it's like, well, now the problem is, can we stop the run? And I think against a team like the Lions, that's a questionable situation there, because if you can't stop the run on the Lions, you're not going to have a good time. So that's a Micah Parsons swing. I'm going to go ahead and say Micah's not fully ready and go Lions by 3 points. I'm going to say the score is 21-17, where Detroit wins. But if Micah does play, then I'd swing it 3 points the other way to Green Bay, since it's in Green Bay. So that's a swing based on what Micah does. Next, we have Houston at Los Angeles. So Houston, Texas at the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to go with Houston just because I don't fully believe the reports that Matthew Stafford is 100% good to go. If he is, and he was truly just not wanting to do the preseason stuff because he's older, and that was an agreement they made quietly where he's like, I just don't want to do this part. Let's say I have a back injury and we go from there. Then sure, Matt Stafford's healthy, the offense is good, but even then you don't have any reps with your new wide receiver addition in Devontae Adams. You should have gotten some live reps. So I'm going off the assumption he told the truth and his back's hurt. And in that case, I'm not going to say he's 100% ready to go. I'm going to say he's a veteran that's sore, that's hurting as he's going to be, and he's just going to play through it. And if that's the case, good for him, but I'm going to take Houston at that point. I think that the defense of DeMarco Ryan is too much for an older quarterback to handle. Now, obviously, Matthew Stafford's super talented, but that makes the concern of one good hit, and he's not going to be throwing the same. It's not going to have the same feel. It's going to be harder for him to stay in the pocket, so it's going to be a lot of short throws. They won't have as many deep balls in their arsenal because you're worried about what if he gets lit up. And then I think in return on the Texans' end, I think that you're going to see a resurgence again of a promising quarterback in C.J. Stroud. I think their offense is going to start picking up the pace again, and they're going to kind of figure out those issues they had last season. This game might be a little bit more of a slugfest, something like a 13-10, 17-14 type setup. So 14-10, I don't know why I said 13. No, 13 is possible. It's going to be more of a slugfest, but I'm going to take Houston there. And then our late night, let's go, Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. Love the Ravens. This is a go either way game. So for me, obviously my biases, I'm rooting for the Ravens. I think they can do it. It's early in Buffalo, so it's not like it's a snow game or something. Lamar Jackson's amazing. Derrick Henry's a monster. This is going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth, touchdown, field goal, touchdown type game. So my biases, I'm going to take Baltimore in a 3-point victory. I'm going to go 35-32, but it's at Buffalo. If the Bills won, I wouldn't be shocked. My bias is taking over, saying that the Baltimore Ravens are going to win. Unfortunately, Baltimore has last season started 0-2. We've seen it before where they play against the team that ripped out their heart in the playoffs and then they don't come to play the next time they meet. But at the same time, they did come to play against the Chiefs and they lost by a Isaiah Likely heel on the, or toe on the white line or something like that, heel on the white line. So they did show up to play actually with the Chiefs. They just were a toe away from winning. So I think with the Bills, it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Lamar's going to have a couple of amazing plays. He's going to have some deep throws to, he's going to hit Zay Flower in the slot. He's going to hit, I think Likely's injured, so tight end-wise, it might be a little questionable. We'll see, though. Obviously, fantastic tight end. It's just older. That's the kind of concern there. But yeah, I'm going to go with that. But once again, if Buffalo were to win, it would not be shocking. Really wouldn't be. And then lastly, Monday Night Football, Minnesota at Chicago. Going with Minnesota. I think Chicago's getting overhyped. I think that they have the future is bright for them, but I don't think it's now. I think Caleb Williams is going to have a whole season. He needs to learn. He needs to keep growing in. He needs to keep preparing. And I think this season is going to be all about seeing that growth, seeing that development. He's still young. He still has promise. He still has time. He does not have to be great right now. And I think anyone saying he has to be now, it's a stretch. But he does need to show those flashes. He does need to show what he's got there. Now, obviously, the struggle with the other end, Minnesota has J.J. McCarthy, which could be the exact same concern. Like, what are you going to get out of J.J. McCarthy? Who knows? Truly, nobody knows. Some people say he's going to suck. Some people say he's going to be good. I think he'll be somewhere in the middle. But the good news, he could have a, not to keep using this example, a Brock Purdy effect, a Sam Darnold effect. That offense is good enough that even though they don't have their second wide receiver got suspended, but still you have, J.J. McCarthy can throw to Justin Jefferson. It's kind of more of a plug-and-play offense. They have Aaron Jones for the run game. I think I'm going to take Minnesota. I know it's in Chicago, but that doesn't really mean much nowadays. Chicago is Chicago. It's not like it's an intimidating place to play unless it's in December, January, and it's cold. That's the only time it can be challenging. But they're Minnesota. They're fine with cold weather. I'm going to go with a 17-14 win, Minnesota. So this has been the first lunch break. I don't know how long I went. I didn't have a timer for it or anything, so we'll see how long that was. Hopefully I didn't go over how long I'm supposed to be on lunch, because I'll have to explain that and be like, my bad, I was rambling to myself for that whole time. But I really appreciate if anyone sat through this. If it's just my sports journal where I get all these thoughts out, that's fine too. But if anyone listens to this, I really do appreciate it. Love to hear what you have to think about some of my opinions. So am I probably saying names wrong or calling someone wrong or being like, how did you forget this person's name? That's goofy. Whatever it is, I'd appreciate hearing it down below in the comments. If you want to be here for the next one, feel free to hit subscribe, hit like, whatever you want to do. But if this, once again, is just a sports journal for me, let it be that. But I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the fact that football season is back, and hope your fantasy football team kills it. If you sports bet, hope your parlays hit, and hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next Friday. Peace.